Hey everybody, and welcome to the Wolfe Pit. Hey, today we're going to do some orange marmalade sriracha glazed spare ribs. And we're going to trim these ribs up St. Louis style. Right now this is a full untrimmed rack of ribs, and I'm going to show you how I trim them up. You trim them up different ways. Different people like to do different things. You know, for one, I don't like to remove the membrane on them. That's the tough, chewy stuff here. I actually, if you cook the ribs at a higher heat, that actually becomes a little bit somewhat crispy, and that's the way we're going to be doing the ribs today. And I actually happen to like it, and especially if your ribs do happen to get overly tender, the membrane helps hold them together. So that's just a personal preference. So I'm going to trim these ribs up St. Louis style, but I'm going to leave the membrane on. You can remove the membrane if you like. Again, just it's your choice. So what I'm going to do first, I've already done it actually, is I'm going to cut off the skirt. And that's right here, so I'm going to remove that. Oops, I did miss a little piece. So now we're going to remove the breastbone, which is up here, listen. And all these upper bones. Alright, we've got our breastbone removed. Basically what you do is you just run a knife straight down where I was talking about before. Obviously this is already done. It's not this easy, but it is easy to do. You run a knife straight down where the cartilage meets the two bones, and then you separate this. Do not throw this away. There's still lots of meat on this, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a few minutes. So now if you want to, this is where a lot of people doing trimming go different ways. A lot of people like to remove all the fat stuff. I don't. I mean, if you find some big pieces of fat like that, you can remove it if you need to. But there, if you find big hunks of fat, fine. I mean, this is all flavor. If you want to beautify the ribs up a little bit, you can flip them over and square them up at the ends. You can remove this if you want. I'm going to leave it there. Obviously it adds more flavor, and it keeps ribs moist as well. So we're going to keep the seasoning to a minimum on these. We're just going to salt and pepper these. And just some black pepper. So we're going to just rub this in just as you would just a regular rub. Just get everything wet, flip it over, and do the same thing on the other side. Alright, we have our St. Louis style trimmed ribs on here, and we'll put them on there just like they're still together, except for the skirt is over here by itself. That'll be done probably within 30 minutes or so after the grill comes up to temperature. So we're going to go ahead and light our lump charcoal with our torch, as you've seen me do before. We're going to let this sit here for about 1 minute, and we're going to cook these ribs in the 350 degree range. So again, we're barbecuing again today. We're not slow smoking these ribs. Alright, once we have our charcoal lit, we're going to go ahead and start adding small pieces of apple wood today, all around the pile of charcoals we have. You want to get a couple right on top of the coals that you just lit. You want that immediate smoke on the cold meat, as I've said before. And this looks like a lot of wood I'm going to be using, but the temperatures we're going to be cooking at today, this wood's going to burn fairly quick. And once we see a little bit of smoke coming out of the wood, we're going to go ahead and put our lid on. Put our vent directly over top of the meat. Leave it 100% open, bottom vent 100% open for about 10 minutes. Then once our grill gets to about 275 degrees, we'll shut the vents down 75%, and they'll continue to climb a little bit, and they should settle in the 350 degree range. Alright, while our ribs are out on the grill, we're going to go ahead and make our orange marmalade sriracha sauce. And we'll start off with an 18-ounce jar of orange marmalade. Alright, now we're going to add in 1/3 cup of honey. Alright, now we're going to add 1/3 cup of sriracha sauce. Alright, 1/3 cup of brown sugar. We're going to bring this up to a simmer and let it slightly reduce, and we'll be ready to start basting our ribs. Alright, our ribs have been cooking for about 2.5 hours now, and now we're going to begin to start basting them. As you can tell, the color is a lot different on these ribs versus slow smoked ribs. You actually see a little bit of charring on the ribs, which is good. I mean, it adds a totally different dimension, totally different flavor to the ribs versus a slow smoked rib. So these are barbecue rib. These are not smoked ribs. So anyway, you can tell we're starting to get some pullback from the bones, which is a sign that the ribs are getting close to being done. They're not done yet. So we're going to go ahead and begin to glaze these. We're going to glaze these probably 5 or 6 times throughout the rest of the cook. I am not going to put any sauce on the breastbone of the ribs. Those will be chunked up and vacuum sealed, and we'll use that meat that's been smoked and barbecued to season beans and soups. And you start doing this with just light layers of this and let it build up. The high heat will begin to start caramelizing this fairly quick. And that way you just do it with light coatings, several of them. We're going to come back and apply another layer of sauce on these in about 10 minutes. Alright, 3 hours in, our spare ribs are done. So we're going to go ahead and give these a try and see how they turned out here. As you can tell, they're pretty moist. Look at the nice glaze on top. Let's take a bite in these and see how they turned out here. I think the bite through kind of speaks for itself. These are tender. They're not fall off the bone tender, but let me show you something. You grab this. If you wanted to, you could pull it off the bone. The meat still has texture, but it's not mushy. It's not fall off the bone texture. The first thing you taste off of these is the smoke, and then you get the orange marmalade, the sweet, and then you get the back taste of the heat from the sriracha. These are amazing ribs. Couldn't ask these to turn out any better. Tender, moist, sweet, smoky, spicy. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.